India, I want to talk about India too. So no shortage of complicated politics there, and I don't pretend to know it all by any stretch. But we have, strong voting blocs here, Sikhs in particular, and again in certain regions, 905 around Toronto, and Lower Mainland again in BC. But the views of whether or not either certain politicians or certain groups are more aligned pro-India in the current Indian government relative to, say, whether they're viewed to be too closely aligned or closely aligned with the Khalistanis, I get that wrong every time, I think plays a big role here, and I think you've spent some time on this issue too.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's quite a fascinating sort of dynamic, and I mean the population of people of Indian background in Canada is something over 1 million, I think, and of those, about half are of Sikh background, and so we're talking about less than 1 million, but they have a sort of disproportionate impact on Canadian politics. I think the Sikh Canadians do. There's something like 17 Sikh MPs in Parliament, which is far greater than their percentage of the population, and of course four Sikh members of cabinet, which right. Prime Minister has often talked about. So I think what we have seen in the past is certainly parties, I think, particularly sort of reaching out to the Sikh community, because it seems to be the very politically active community, and seems to often vote sort of as a bloc for one party or the other. But that in itself has created tensions between Canada and India, because certainly the current Indian government views the Liberal government as being pro-Khalistani, as being supportive of those in Canada who support a Sikh homeland in India, which is they would call Khalistan.
Right.
And there's certain politicians in India who have been very critical of the Liberals over this, which again seems to be playing out on the ground here. And there is a suspicion on the part of certainly the Sikh community, I've heard this from various sources, that the Indian government is sort of interfering in this situation in Canada, and perhaps is allying itself with the Conservatives, who some feel are more pro the Narendra Modi government in India, right. and less pro Sikh separatism. I haven't seen any sort of direct evidence of the Indian government sort of interfering in that way, but it's an interesting idea. And certainly, Stephen Harper gave a speech recently in which he was very highly praised Modi, mm-hmm. criticized those who support the Khalistani movement. So sort of supported that idea of the Conservatives being more on that side of things.